Hi guys, Josh here, welcome to FramesPerSecond. Today we're checking out the Minolta Freedom III. So there are many hyped point and shoot cameras. Of course you have the Olympus stylus, you even have the Nikon L35 AF, and of course if you really have the money, you've got the Contax T2, you've got the Sheikah T4s. But if we're talking about lower end, good quality point and shoots that also have a fast lens, then I want to put the Minolta Freedom III into the conversation. I think this camera is a pretty decent alternative to the Olympus stylus and even the Nikon L35 AF or AD. It's got a 35mm lens, which is 2.8. It is a little bit bigger than, say, other point and shoots you can get, like, you know, your random Pentax SPOs or Olympus zooms. It is a bit longer, but it's also a bit flatter, depending on what you're after. If you want to put it in your pocket, maybe this might be better, even though it's got a much slower lens and the lens quality isn't as good. And obviously being a guy, we tend to have deeper pockets. This works perfectly fine for me. So this is a standard point and shoot camera, and it focuses in the center. But if you do want to do a composition that, say, the person you want to focus on is more to one side, frame it as if whatever you want to focus is in the center. Hold down the shutter a little bit, not all the way, and then you'll see a little green light, and that's to show that it's locked in where it's going to focus. And then you just reframe, and so it's not that difficult. I will say it's not always the most accurate autofocus system. Then again, what point and shoot really is. But for the price, this camera does punch above its weight, including postage, which was pretty expensive for postage for something this small. This camera cost me $70, and it's still going for around that price. But at this point, I've put at least 10, maybe more rolls, and as you've seen in some of my previous videos from Melbourne and some of the future ones to come, they have been shot with this camera. I've been with it for a while, and I can say it's a really good point and shoot camera, but it does have its flaws. And one of those for me is that it is DX coded. Some of the Nikon cameras, some of the Pentax, some of the Olympuses obviously are DX coded as well, and while they do have their place, there are some point and shoot cameras you can get where you can choose the ISO yourself, which is handy if you want to overexpose, or even if you're looking to push a roll. But if you want to do any of that with this camera, you have to hack the DX code. So you either do that by scratching and using a marker, or by making your own codes to put on top, which can be a bit of a hassle. But I do eventually want to do that for a video coming up, so we'll see how it goes. I do love the kind of lens door grip kind of situation it's got going on. It's nice to hold. It stops me from, even though there's still times where I will get part of my finger in the shot, it stops me from doing that as much as with other point and shoots I've used before. But it does also help save battery, so when it's closed, you can't take a photo and it's not working. When it's open, then it'll go. I also like the sound of the shutter. It's still kind of loud, but it's not as loud as my data-backed Nikon or even my Canon ML, and it's fast. Shutters on some point and shoots which sound a bit slower go for longer. This one's nice and quick. It could be a little bit quieter, but really, if you're going for a quiet shutter, shoot a rangefinder, not a point and shoot. The viewfinder, it could stand to be a little bit bigger, just because obviously you have the frame, and then it gives you a little bit extra on the sides, but it's not so much compared to other point and shoots or, say, a rangefinder, which is a little bit more helpful, because with this camera, a lot of the time, my composition does lean more to one side than I'm expecting it to. And I don't know if that's just because the viewfinder is maybe a little bit off. For me, the frame lines are just a bit too tight to the edges. It's almost like I'm using the edges, not the frame lines, to compose. And that has ruined quite a few shots for me, but not enough to really complain. I just need to remember which side it goes more to, and then just adjust for that. I don't have too many complaints. Like all point and shoots, the autofocus isn't perfect, the shutter isn't exactly soft, but that's not what a point and shoot's for. It's not to be sneaky. It's not really to do street, though you definitely can, and I definitely have. It's more of a, I guess, a holiday camera, hang out with your friends camera, just get nice memories that you might not be able to get if you didn't have a point and shoot with you. Overall, my thoughts are that it is a pretty good alternative to the more hyped point and shoot cameras like the Konica Big Mini, the Olympus MJUIIs, even the Nikon 35 AFs and ADs. I do have an AD, so that's a future video coming up. Most other point and shoots are a bit shorter, but also a bit wider. But I enjoy the slimness of it. Like, it's probably maybe a little bit bigger than my wallet thickness, which, yeah, I know. I gotta take some stuff out of that, make it thinner. But having guy pants, it's easy to kind of slip this in your pocket still, or even in your jacket. I know that will be a problem with the girls. And so of course, with like things like the Olympus Stylus, which is much more pocketable, you might want that just because of the pocketability of it. I like how it feels in your hands. It's got a good weight to it. Of course, I've definitely held lighter point and shoots, but I've also held heavier ones. Now, it actually has 4 modes, and it's got on the back here a little chart telling you what modes they are. And so you have normal mode, self-timer mode, flash mode, and sequential mode. Every time you take a photo on a mode, it will go back to normal mode automatically. Sequential mode does stay in sequential mode, so that can be a bit handy if you're looking to do that. The self-timer mode is about 5 seconds, so it's shorter than 10, longer than 2, which are usually the kind of self-timer modes that I've found on other cameras. Obviously this is an old camera, and so it is falling apart for that reason, but it's still reliable, easy to use, and the lens itself is pretty good. It's not a plastic lens, it's actual glass. There's definitely some shots that do look incredibly sharp. Some of them have been like sneaky little ones, but it's usually when the person's not too far away but not too close, because obviously there are limits to how close you can be. This one is 70 centimeters. To get it in focus, you can't be any closer than that, which can be a drawback if you want to do more close-up kind of stuff, but you actually can get a kind of macro lens thing for this camera that actually is something other point and shoots don't have the option of. So maybe that also is another plus for this camera. And it's also like a third, a fourth, even sometimes less the price of the higher priced point and shoots or the overhyped ones that have been held by Kardashian or Jenner. One last negative I will say with this camera is that the flash isn't optional. If you've got a bit of shadow, even during the daytime, it will flash, even when it's not in flash mode. And so if you do want to get moodier shots when it's a little bit darker, you can't, because it will just flash. And so sometimes I will cover it or even get gaff tape to put over it. I will say the flash of this particular camera is kind of annoyingly bright. There's other point and shoots that I've used, or friends of mine have used, where the flash isn't as full on. Maybe you could tape some diffusion on it, on the flash, and maybe then you'll start getting nicer stuff with it. But it's a good cheap little option that I don't see a lot of people talking about, and so I thought I would, especially because I've been with it for a while now. I hope you enjoyed my review of the Minolta Freedom III. I also hope you enjoyed my images from my time in Melbourne. They were shot on Kodak Gold. I know I mostly just talk about the film stock and street photography or portrait, whatever I'm shooting in my videos, but if you want me to do more camera-based stuff, I'm more than happy to. I mostly just strayed away from that because every other channel is really about the cameras, and so that's kind of why I've mostly been about the film stock and the type of photography I'm doing. If you want more from me, please like and subscribe, turn those post notifications so you know when there's a new episode. But anyway, I'm Josh, this has been Frames Per Second, and just get out there, shoot the film.